On November 12, 2016, alternative media covered a report by Amnesty International, outlining how police forces in Lagos, Nigeria had set fire to and demolished coastal slumlands within the city. According to the reports at the time, in order to attract tourism and boost revenue, Nigerian authorities had hoped to redevelop the coastline into luxury apartment complexes and sell them to affluent investors in the future. However, in order for the construction project to go forward, thousands of people living along the water's edge had to be relocated from the area. Unfortunately though, not only did the majority of inhabitants not want to leave, but many of them were so poor that they could not afford to find new homes even if they wanted to. After enough time, the government of Nigeria began to lose patience, and in an attempt to encourage people to vacate their homes, Nigerian police proceeded to set fire to various neighborhoods. Then, as soon as people stepped foot out of their homes, they were scooped up and forcibly evicted from the area. The police then hired demolition crews to come in and clear the debris for construction to begin. All said, on November 10, 2016, some 30,000 people literally became homeless overnight as their homes burned to the ground and police seized the area for government control. While the events in Lagos went on to make international headlines at the time, this was by no means an isolated incident in Nigerian history. It was not until February 2017, after months of international criticisms, that Nigeria's High Court officially banned forced evictions in the future. The ruling was made on the heels of another mass eviction, scheduled to take place in Nigeria later in the year, this time affecting some 100,000 residents. As reported by Amnesty International on February 2, 2017, the judgment declared that Nigerian authorities have an obligation to refrain from forced evictions and make policies towards realizing the right to adequate housing and security of tenure for the residents. Amnesty went on to decry this as a landmark decision and urged all state governments across Nigeria to take heed of this ruling and take immediate steps to stamp out forced evictions. The ruling is a victory for the residents of Mpepe who have lived with fear of forced evictions since 2012. While this may have prevented forced evictions over the months since, it certainly has not cut down on police brutality or other acts of government aggression against their own people. For all the reasons mentioned above, this is also why Nigerians have staged massive protests across the country this year, some of the largest of which have taken place in Lagos, including again earlier this week. As reported by All Africa News on June 27, 2016, activists staged a peaceful protest to the State House of Assembly opposing forceful takeover of their land by land grabbers. The report goes on to explain that the protesters do not oppose redevelopment projects and support the government trying to grow the economy in the future. They are just urging their government to use less barbaric and inhumane means to make room for them. As one protester said, "Bring peace and development, not death and destruction to your father's land." Other protesters decided to take to the streets to voice their concerns over political affairs for the first time, after years of feeling threatened by and afraid of their own government. Some protesters chanted, "I will no longer be silent." Others said that if we remain silent, we would be guilty of complicity. After taking to the streets to gather a crowd, the protesters then marched in front of the House of Assembly, where they then appealed to Speaker of the House to stand by their side and share their message.